After months and months of building up the storyline, you would think that you would get the big payoff at the second largest pay-per-view that WWE has to offer. But no, they made the conscious decision to leave it off the card, and fans are pretty damn pissed. And honestly, I understand why. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus. A storyline that maybe went on a little too long. But then at Night of Champions, WWE introduced Zoe Stark into the mix, and I feel like that's when the story really picked up momentum. And it was cool because we saw a rising star from NXT get involved in the mix. So, of course, when I think about SummerSlam and I think about these big pay-per-views, I think about the opportunity for those who may have never had that experience finally get their experience. And that's why I looked at this as a big deal, especially for Zoe Stark being an NXT call-up. And guys, the reality is this. WWE did a pretty good job with some NXT call-ups. Then there's other people, maybe not the same. Okay, so here's the thing. WWE announced that Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch with Zoe Stark banned from ringside will take place in 2 weeks in Canada. And honestly, it makes a lot of sense for them to do it on TV. It's one of their big stories. But at the same time, too, I do scratch my head at this idea because the idea of these massive stadium shows is to have big payoffs for their big storylines. And look, here's the reality. WWE has been doing this strategy for a while. Maybe you're not paying attention. Maybe you just haven't realized it. But before or after a pay-per-view, WWE has been recently putting up some pretty big matches on those shows, and they leave them off the pay-per-view card. Now, the reason why WWE does this, I'm assuming, is because television rights are a big part of their revenue. And so, in order to really get people to watch their show, they got to leave some of those big stories and big matchups on television. And it makes a lot of sense. It honestly does. However, at the same time, too, I just can't help but wonder why there is a Slim Jim Battle Royal on the pay-per-view, and this match, along with Rhea Ripley not having a singles match, because you got to keep that in mind, Rhea Ripley is not facing Raquel at SummerSlam. They're leaving off two pretty big match types, right? They're leaving them to the side. They don't give a shit what you think, because eventually they're going to give it to you, and then you'll be happy with it when they do. The reality is the Slim Jim Battle Royal is sponsorship revenue. That's the only reason why it's on the card. And look, there are a ton of people who aren't being used. So the reality is LA Knight, Sheamus, Bronson Reed. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be several other people in this Battle Royal who don't have a match for the pay-per-view. And this is their excuse to get them on the card. But realistically, WWE is doing that because they're getting the sponsorship revenue. It's really pretty simple. But WWE at the same time has two matchups that are being left off the card, and they're going to put them on television. Now, keep in mind, WWE is also doing this to Austin Theory because Austin Theory will be defending his U.S. Championship next week against Santos Escobar. And that's going to be a great match. And again, WWE has been following this strategy, putting the big matchups on TV before or after a pay-per-view. And again, I understand why they're trying to do it. But I feel like at the same time, too, it kind of devalues the purpose of the premium live event. Now, I'm a little disappointed in this. Because at the same time, this pay-per-view also doesn't have a tag team championship match. Now, I have to talk about this because when I talked about WrestleMania and I talked about some of the issues with WWE booking, a lot of people feel like I am not criticizing WWE, but I criticize WWE all the time. And the reality is this, guys, I'm really starting to figure this out. WWE does a lot of good things. They do. They really, really do. Right now, the product is hot. And the reason why it's hot is because they're doing a lot of good things. But there are things where it just has me scratching my head. You have tag team matches on television. You're building up your tag team division, but you don't have tag team championships on the line at SummerSlam. Now, if WWE didn't have undisputed tag team championship belts, this wouldn't be an issue. But because both of the titles are merged, that's a problem. You have Rhea Ripley absolutely dominating the Raw women's division Good. She finally has a pretty good story going on with Raquel. There's something there. There's a couple layers to it. It's not on the SummerSlam card. But we're talking about a storyline that's been in the works for 4 months. An NXT superstar like Zoe Stark would benefit from being involved at SummerSlam. But WWE decided not to put this match on the card. It's weird. And it's weird because it ultimately comes down to one thing. WWE doesn't care what you think. Whether it's good or bad, they don't care. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. This is the reason why WWE, I think, at the end of the day, will continue to do whatever the hell they're doing with LA Knight. This is why they'll keep doing what they're doing with the Judgment Day. This is why they have Dominic Mysterio win the North American Championship. This is the reason why Sami Zayn lost. This is the same reason why Cody Rhodes lost. This is the same reason why a lot of people have lost to Roman Reigns, despite the fact that the crowd and the fans and Twitter, everybody believes that they should do something differently. WWE has their plan and their strategy, and that's it. Nobody's going to get in the way of it. And I would say for a lot of the things that they're doing, they are doing it the right way. But also, I guess I'm simply confused as to why you would build up this storyline not to give it the big payoff at the stadium show in Detroit. It's weird. It's confusing. And I think it kind of sends the wrong message to fans. The reason why WWE fans are pissed off right now, it's because they've been investing their time into this storyline. There are people who bought tickets to SummerSlam in hopes of seeing this match. And I get it. It wasn't announced, but it's not about being announced or anything. You kind of set the precedent, like this is what's going down. And again, it's not WWE's fault. It's not the fans' fault. Naturally, this is what's going to happen when you are running a live sporting event and you're building stories. Now, the only thing I can say, because it hasn't been talked about, is there an injury or something that is causing this match to be delayed? If that is the case, then obviously nobody has the right to be pissed. But I think WWE will continue to do what WWE wants to do regardless of how people feel, and that's just simply the reality. And I think for that reason, it makes it very hard for me to say that WWE's women's division is the best. NXT, completely different story. They got storylines without the title on the line. They got a lot of stuff happening. They really care about those women down there. And there's a whole bunch of little logistical business decisions that are being made in regards to the main roster where this isn't a priority. But the problem that a lot of people don't seem to realize is this is not a priority, but you have people who aren't being used on television. So what does it say to the people in the back who are wanting TV time so bad? What does it say to them? Because if they see this and they're not even getting the payoff as SummerSlam, I don't know. I'd be kind of irked. That's just my opinion. WWE doesn't care what you think. They don't care what I think. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. SummerSlam is still going to be a great show. It's going to be a great card. Maybe WWE's trying to shorten the match length and stuff at SummerSlam. Maybe they don't want as many matches. I get that, and that's completely fine. But I feel like I'm looking at this card, and there are things missing, and that is problematic.